What up? This is Marlawn, aka Sherlock Homeboy. Back like I never left. Fast as a statue. We're checking out. Let me see. What are we checking out? It's called Dig Deeper on Netflix. Dig Deeper: The Disappearance of Birgit Meier. It sounds like a foreign name. This is season 1, episode 1. Dig Deeper: The Disappearance of Birgit Meier. I haven't heard them say. It appears to be a female. So let's check it out, see what they're talking about. We're back. Dun dun, on Netflix, Dig Deeper. Some old school foreign elevators, it looks like.
The second case in Lüneburg concerns a woman who has been missing since the 14th of August. The woman's name is Birgit Meier. She is 1.65 meters tall, slender, and has blonde hair and green-gray eyes.
When your family is affected by such a serious crime, your whole world falls apart. Nothing is like it was before, nothing ever will be again. The fact that our daughter, wife, or sister disappeared naturally left its mark on us all. Naturally, I sometimes even try to just stop thinking about what might have happened. Sometimes ask myself, do I even want to know? Do I need to know? When I read the case files, if not before, it became clear to me that I had to do something, because I suddenly realized that certain steps had been taken in such a way that didn't make sense from a criminological perspective. Some of it was so unbelievable I thought, oh God, have I overlooked something? Well, what's going on here? And that many, many things still needed to be clarified. To be honest, the bitter truth is that, well, in retrospect, it's even harder for the family to stomach, right? I mean, ultimately, between 1989 and 2017, we didn't know what had happened to Birgit, or where she...
For the record, I didn't know this was a foreign story. We're going to keep going. Everything can't be all shiny Puff Daddy suits. I just was thinking about the word disappearance. So officially, disappearing is not a bad thing. I think I'm going to take the spookiness away from the word disappearance and disappearing until further notice, because I fantasize about disappearing, and I kind of did based upon where I grew up in my old circles. So kind of like New World Order-ish to label disappearing as a bad thing, because that means stay where you could be tracked. So yeah,
The police could have spared us that if they did their jobs properly. But we never gave up hope.
Once again, like, this is a game I play when I listen to true crime. I'm waiting to say good job to a police officer or a detective. I silently, maybe not silently, but I wait to give somebody credit, because it seems like these cases be solving themselves. So I monitor, damn, that was good. They're just showing like the intro. A goofy little kid with a dead bird. Come on, come on. Dig deeper. This is like a foreign. They must have bought this from like a foreign media. Short blonde-haired lady, looked to be like 35.
At 10 p.m. on Monday, August 14th, 1989, I spoke to my mother for the last time in my life. The very last time.
Birgit and I had arranged to meet that evening. I want to say around 6 p.m. or thereabouts, because we wanted to discuss how the two of us were going to handle our pending divorce and the financial settlement that went along with it.
A little shady. People disappeared to talk about divorce and money settlements. All right, that's shady.
My parents had met that evening to discuss some things, and my mother...
Wait. I'm not supposed to rewind, but I'm going to rewind. Shit! Hey, dickhead said supposed to. Daughter come right behind and say, meet. Why would you say supposed to if you already met, if you guys did meet? Let's see.
Because we wanted to discuss how the two of us were going to handle it.
Let's go back.
At 10 p.m. on Monday, August 14th, 1989, I spoke to my mother for the last time in my life. The very last time.
Birgit and I had arranged to meet that evening. I want to say around 6 p.m. or thereabouts, because we wanted to discuss how the two of us were going.
He's talking, even though it's translating, that's all I can do. He's saying like they were supposed to. The daughter comes back and say it like it happened.
To handle our pending divorce and the financial settlement that went along with it.
My parents had met that evening to discuss some things, and my mother and I were talking it over on the phone later that night. Everything seemed totally normal. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, though...
Wait. Let me take my boots off or something. Wait. I'm going to have to rewind that again. I thought you said you saw, or you mean you saw but you talked to her again? Let's go back. Y'all playing word games, even though it's translated. I think this is the same daughter that said you saw her for the last time in the morning, and you talk about you talking to her on the phone. That's confusing. I'll let it play.
Honestly, because of the trauma, I only remember fragments of that conversation. What I remember most clearly was my very last question, which was about what she planned to do next. And she said that she was in her nightgown and wanted to go to bed, and that we should talk on the phone again the next day before she took care of something else.
I think we sat here, where we're sitting right now. I don't remember whether I drank a glass of water or not. It took about 20 minutes or so. Then I left, drove back to my apartment. Later, I went to bed.
I slept for a bit until exactly midnight, and I'm sure about that because I had a digital clock and the display read 0000 when I literally woke with a start as if a bomb had just gone off right next to me. And the first thing I thought was something bad has happened.
Okay, we're gonna talk about the elephant in the room. And to further notice, the husband is generically subject number one. There's no way your wife disappears after discussing money settlements and divorces the same day. Fuck that shit. Husband did it to further notice. Who's with the daughter?
Klar habe ich dann sehr früh am nächsten Morgen.
Very early the next morning, I tried to call my mom, but although I let it ring, she didn't answer, which was really unusual. My mom was as reliable as clockwork. The next thing I did was take a taxi to Brittlingen. 1,000 thoughts crossed my mind, none of them good. I was trembling and shaking. First I rang the doorbell. But I could see that the curtain she would usually pull open as soon as she got up was drawn shut. I went around back and saw one of the cats staring at the other through the patio door, which was highly unusual. They were like my mom and I, always stuck together. Candy and Kimmy, they were always together. Finally, I went inside and called for Mom.
But her talking to her friend or her daughter, wherever this weird story's happening, but that's contact after the meeting with the husband. And if it was something big or something blew up, she had time to tell somebody. So unless that person's keeping secrets, it kind of loosens up the husband, because if something happened at that meeting to kill her, she had time to tell others, and he couldn't control what she said.
I turned the whole house upside down. Of course, every time I opened the door to a room, I was scared I would discover something awful. Fortunately, that didn't happen, but it didn't help either, because I still don't know what it meant. It really was like I was in the wrong film.
I'm going to stay away from translations, investigations, because the details matter so much. A lot of things might get lost in translation.
That morning, Yasmin called me and said, "Dad, do you know where Mom is?"
He's sitting there with his arms crossed. Even though he seemed relaxed, he seemed like he has some money. His life seems great. He seems almost rich. Yeah.
"I can't reach her." And I said, "I have no idea where she is." Today, she was planning to drive to Bad Setjeberg to go to the furniture store. That's all I can really tell you.
I'll connect you. Please stay on the line.
It seems like he has enough money to protect, too.
My secretary said, "Your niece is on the phone." So I took the call, and it was Yasmin, and she said, "Mom's gone, and she didn't drive to Bad Setjeberg because the car is still in the garage." That her car was in the garage was already highly suspicious. So I called the head of Lüneburg's Criminal Investigations Unit. "Hey, Mr. Rollard, have you heard my sister's disappeared?" "Yeah, I heard." Then I said to him, "I have a request. The house where my sister was before she disappeared, I mean her house, please treat it as a crime scene."
She had a nice house. It seems like a lodge.
Following Mrs. Meier's disappearance, Donert and yours truly tried to find out what had happened. The first thing we did in our investigation was to go to her property in Brittlingen to ascertain if there was anything that could possibly give us a clue as to her disappearance. If you had seen the house at the time, you would be safe in assuming that the Meiers were not people who were down and out. There were absolutely no signs of violence in the house. None. There had been no physical altercation, no bloodstains, no signs of a struggle. It was a normal, empty house.
Real nice house.
In the muddy lawn there was a footprint, but we couldn't make any sense of it. I can't remember. I think it led to the house. We followed every clue and tried to shed whatever light we could on the situation.
When an adult disappears, there are 4 causes or motives. The first is, I'm going to buy cigarettes, and then a partner or whoever disappears for the next 30 years, or for good. These are the, well, let's call them dropouts. The second is an accident, the third is suicide, and the fourth is a crime.
I remember seeing an open green cash box with old black and white pictures inside, and for some reason there was cigarette ash on it as though it had been used as an ashtray. I still believe I saw it on the nightstand, but according to the police report, it was supposedly on the floor. And there was a bottle, though I can't remember what was in it, and 2 champagne flutes, one with lipstick on it. All this indicated that she might have had a visitor. She had just talked to Dad that night. That's all I knew. So who could have been there?
Well, if you want to know exactly what happened, you're probably better off calling a psychic. But we as detectives could only look at the evidence. The physical evidence uncovered in our investigation.
Calm down. Nobody blaming you. Calm your ass down. You guys failed. They just showed the large body of water. I wonder how, in reality, how close is that to the crime scene?
My sister's case took place in the Lüneburg area, and Lüneburg lies about 60 kilometers southwest of Hamburg. So really it was a stone's throw away. Summer of '89, I was head of the Hamburg Criminal Investigations Department, and so head of the Criminal Investigations Unit when my sister disappeared. My mother naturally asked, "Can you do something?" And I said, well, technically I can't do anything because...
His sister disappearing and he's in the law enforcement like that. That might be connected to how clean the crime was. Because anybody who knew her pretty much would know her brother is basically the popo. Probably connected to... that screams, this is screaming paid money, exchange hands.
Charge of the case, but she meant do something as in, what she meant was, yeah, as head of the Hamburg CIU and so on. It's a natural assumption to make, you're a detective. So, you have to know what's been done this far, and what other possibilities exist. But every state has its own police. And I had a sense of loyalty and trust in what was going on in Lüneburg. I had no reason to assume that they were not doing their jobs properly or anything.
Wait, homie. Wait, homie. Are you trying to say you was like an FBI agent and your sister's missing and you didn't take a personal interest in finding her? You thought that the police was doing their job? That's just not good. That's not good enough. That's not good enough for me.
Maria Himmelfahrt, 5. August. Assumption Day, August 15th, 1989. The bike tour to Niendorf Park with Claudie, bought ice cream at Corel's. Sat on a bench. Aunt Birgit has disappeared. Dad is in Lüneburg. Manhunt with dogs and helicopters. Yasmin is sleeping at Uncle Harold's. Ingrid and I are picking up Grandma. She's distraught. Then there's this sentence. Birgit is coming back to her, ... Grandma was probably so shocked that she kept saying, she'll definitely come back to me. She hasn't gone.
And then I still remember we sat down looking in the direction of the airport and saw the planes, and we kept asking ourselves where she might be now. Not that she was on a plane, but where was she? Where did she go?
There's a statistic. I think it's from the Federal Department of Criminal Investigations about missing persons who are never found. These aren't necessarily always cases involving violent crimes. Many just disappear and also don't want people to know where they've gone.
I still say there's still evidence of that feeling around. Like, I don't think, like, somebody who's not trying to be found, I think they leave a different way. I don't think they leave after meeting with their husband about divorce and money settlements and a car in the garage.
And in order to rule out all possibilities and follow every clue, as well as with some help from the family, we searched for any traces of Birgit in Mexico, because she had a friend who lived in Mexico City. At any rate, we didn't find anything to indicate that there was any basis for the first theory, that she just said, bye, I'm starting a new life somewhere else.
As far as I was concerned, there was no way she'd gone to Mexico. She was far too kind a person to ever consider doing something like that. And not just because of the cats. She loved them too. No, because of Yasmin. She would never have done that. Never. Never.
That's the husband. They're like detasseling corn.
I was told, Wolfgang, wait for the cornfields to be harvested. Because I kept asking how the investigation was going. It was a clear indication he thought my sister had committed suicide.
I can't
imagine that my daughter would have done that because she doted on her daughter. She would never have done that to herself. Because
are they like joking? Like I hate how like this true crime is like set up for like movies and theaters. Are they joking, man? No, start with the motherfucking husband. Y'all tell me about Mexico. Y'all talk about killing herself. Quit fucking playing with me. Get to the husband.
The child meant everything. I
really
held out hope that she'd come back. It's not like my mother to leave.
Why wasn't the child living with the mother? Very important question.
Even not tell anyone, and it's just as nonsensical that she would kill herself.
Unless she was older, she was like in her 20s or something. They didn't tell us. They just got the dad living somewhere. They got the kid living somewhere. They got the mom living somewhere. They got phone. They didn't explain anything.
At least would have known something. She wouldn't have just left my grandma behind, wondering where her daughter is.
And plus, here's what I'm thinking. So far, since they ain't giving me shit, I hate how they kind of lead you in the wrong direction on purpose just to say gotcha. I don't like that shit because they have me like spinning my brain on something where they just made it appear a way, then waste my time by leaving out the piece that make me cross that person out. But check this out. You know what's weird? It looked like they had some money too. And if you was going to pay to get your partner killed out of greed, right, because you don't want to split half your shit, here's what's kind of interesting. As I play that process, that cold-hearted process out Let me hit the J, baby. Let me take a shot of Patron. Half a shot. I'm a little girly man. I was like 1/3 of a shot. As I think that cold-hearted process out in my mind, it's so cold-hearted that no matter how cold-hearted you are, you have to be sure. You have to make checks. And for some reason, we have that in this story. If you was going to pay $50,000, $20,000, $15,000 to get your partner killed over greed, wouldn't you meet with them one last time to see if they would go for something that would be okay? Instead of you getting $500,000, how about you keep the house and I pay for college for our daughter and I give you $1,000 a month? No, I think I deserve half. Well, that check, well, at least I checked. So it seems kind of weird. I hate that shit. I hate right after talking about a divorce. Divorce means give me half your shit or give me half of our shit. So to do something cold-hearted like that, it would seem that somebody would almost check, do a double check, like see if they have to. And then almost to let their conscience go free. Like, okay, before I kill her, let me see if she's gonna be rational. And if she wasn't, you most likely would act like everything's fine. So she probably wouldn't have a story to tell her daughter or her friend.
So I said, we have to be proactive. We can't just sit around here and wait for something to happen. So I went out with flyers and glued them onto billboards.
But if you pay, if you pay for something to happen to her, you halfway know what happened to her. That means you can kind of get out there. You can search all the fields. You can put up all the posters because you're not gonna find her, especially if you know what happened to her and where she's at or could be. So if you pay somebody to drop her off in the ocean and it has happened, you can put up all the reward signs. You can fund all the field searches you want, and you can take the lead on that. It's called the alibi.
I also placed a missing persons ad on the back page of a sports journal. We tried our best to raise public.
And at the same time, he's doing a lot. He was about to divorce his wife, but once again, they could be hiding in plain sight.
Awareness about Birgit's disappearance. I even got into the habit of always looking around everywhere, searching through crowds wherever I went, just to see if I could spot her. Because at that time, we didn't know what had happened. She could have been anywhere.
But here's the key, though. Here's the key. Even though it's not admissible in court, have you took a lie detector test, sir? All this charades and shit. Have you took a lie detector test?
Getting more and more.
Have they checked his bank accounts for abnormal withdrawals?
Worried every day.
Have you talked to ex-girlfriends or who she? Because a lot of times people bond with people, but that bond don't last. So you gotta check with ex-girlfriends of his since it happened. Friends. $20 away, 20 kilometers away in a forest, they said. July 1989. That's weird. They spelled July with an I. I never even thought about that because Y is sometimes I. They spelled July with an I. July 1989. Julie.
Fear of the Goethe killer continues to rise, since last week when a second murdered couple was found. So far, 4 murders have happened near Lüneburg. On July 12th...
Whoa, okay.
The bodies of Peter and Ursula Reinhold were discovered in the forest. And last Thursday, a few hundred meters away, the police found the bodies of Ingrid Vormbier and Bernard Michael Coping.
That's not connected. Even though that's 4 unsolved murders, tell me about more, but nothing like that sounds like her. Nothing. Them was so easy to find, they was having like a camp out of dead people. That sounds nothing like her.
The man was strangled and shot. The woman was beaten to death.
And all that is messy. Y'all didn't even find nothing out of place at her house. Distraction. That's not the same. It's a different lunatic.
Up to 50,000 marks have been set as a reward for identifying them.
There's no way somebody could be messy to beat somebody up, shoot somebody, stab somebody, but they come to her and they don't even do anything. The crime scene is spotless and they can't find her. When this killer was like aggressive and left them in the woods.
Perpetrator.
The police are in the dark. The public, particularly locals, are in shock.
I used to go walking every year here in Goethe Forest, but not anymore. To be honest, I'm afraid now.
And when did that happen? When did that happen? You guys remember that black dude, that black crazy dude? What's that dude? The DC sniper? You remember what he did? He was he was creating his own bullshit to slide in killing his ex-wife. So I wonder the timeline of that, because if people are walking around talking about a serial killer, 4 dead bodies already, that is very convenient to go ahead with evil ass plans as in killing your wife, because there's already a boogeyman out there.
No one goes into the forest.
Are you scared to go in the forest now?
Yes, I hope it's not someone from around here.
Do you think the killer is a local?
Yeah. Yes.
Why is that?
We know the area. Everything points to the perpetrator being sexually disturbed.
The police believe that both crimes were committed by the same man. Since the discovery of the second double murder, visitors have avoided Goethe Forest.
The fact that 2 double murders happened there was a total bombshell. Its effects are even felt today. Goethe Forest is still called the Forest of Death. So the police were under pressure.
So that was before. That's interesting. That's what was before.
Of course, the public expects the murders to be solved quickly because there's a murderer at large. And he might commit further murders. It's important to keep in mind that such cases aren't just about solving murders, but also about preventing murders.
The police suspect a connection between the 2 crimes due to the proximity of where the bodies were found. If the bodies were hidden on the 12th, then the police and the perpetrator must almost have crossed paths, right?
That cannot be ruled out. We just weren't in this part of the forest.
500 meters away.
Exactly, a bit further south.
It's crazy to think that this could have easily come to an encounter.
Yes, it is.
When people are unsettled by crimes like these, then journalists are particularly interested. They were less interested in my sister, and the public recognized that and resumed their daily business. But that wasn't possible with the Goethe Forest cases.
The main focus was on the Goethe killings, so when there was a second shortly after the first, they were overwhelmed. We had the impression that our case was kind of secondary.
When did they happen? Man, what order did it happen at?
Of course, the murders happening caused us anxiety. Even more attention than before is now paid to who is roaming the forest. And if the person is a stranger, we take a good look at them.
That really weren't roaming the forest. Here's it. If that's like shitting in the woods, you know, people who shit in the woods, really, they go to the woods to shit. They out there with y'all. So a guy who roams the forest will actually put the bodies in town. Why would he fuck up where he be at? Nah, you got it backwards. He out there with y'all.
I'm an old East Prussian. My father was a forester too, and he taught us the following. See everyone you meet in the forest as a criminal. You can always change your mind. If you don't, you might not have the chance to.
So what really fascinates me is how strange this case is. There are a few cases that really reach this level of mystery, with so many uncertainties, difficulties for the police, and of course the errors, mishaps, and negligence, everything. Everyone has their own theories, and they don't all match
Amateur detective
with what the police told them.
Jens F. Furman.
But because no one knows what the killer's motive.
Where's this happening at? If I had to guess, I don't know, I didn't take geology in school. I'm going to say Germany.
Was. It is extremely difficult to be certain that there was only one killer.
They're showing like pictures.
Well, what seemed a little problematic to me was that the detectives were very quick to focus on one person, of whom they made a composite sketch, and who they thought was the Goethe killer. Right. The bagman. So berry pickers found the Reinhold's bodies, and then this bagman walked past. He was wearing a backpack, or a large bag on his back, which is why they gave him that name. According to the description, he was behaving oddly. Supposedly, he was a grim-looking, unpleasant man.
Hey, that's that bullshit. Y'all in the force investigating a quadruple murder, and you think a guy look weird with a bag, and now he's just a mystery? That's that bullshit.
They crossed their path and headed towards the area of the second crime scene. The sketch was made based on this encounter. Speculation is rife. Is the missing woman a victim of the Goethe killer?
No.
Was already murdered 4 people? We completely ruled that out.
No, but it's the perfect cover, though. It's the perfect cover. It's not connected, but it might be connected as an opportunity.
There are no parallels. Actually, in situations like this, one should be cautious. When it's a matter of ruling out a possibility. In other words, ruling out anything at that stage of the investigation is completely irresponsible.
Hamburg, August 89.
2 weeks after Birgit Meier's disappearance, her ID was found at the Central Post Office in Hamburg. It must have been turned in the day before by an unknown person. Could this be a sign that she's still alive?
Oh, shit. That's the sign of a paid hit. Oh, shit. That's the sign of a paid hit right there. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. That's not this wasn't a crime of passion or amateur job. And she did that while trying to disappear. Nah, homie. Somebody paid to make her disappear. And they trying to do it too good. They did too good of a job. Putting her ID in the mail. Y'all done fucked up. Y'all done fucked up.
They found her ID in what was then the Central Post Office, where mail from all Hamburg mailboxes was brought multiple times a day, and where it began to be sorted. So they were able to determine that the ID had been collected from a mailbox somewhere in northwest Hamburg. More important, perhaps, than which mailbox it was posted into was the fact that it was actually posted into a mailbox.
Yeah, but you guys could have found that out. Like, that's kind of random. I'm pretty sure in that short span, if you went and contacted every mail sorter individually, the individual places, because the mail places didn't seem that big, they would recall pre-sorting an ID. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't more than anywhere between 1 and 100 IDs put in the mail in that short amount of time from that area. So you guys could have actually, with some boots on the ground investigation, like say for instance you worked in the worked in the mail room. I think you will remember within a 3-day span of putting a pre-sorting ID. That means if you can do it, everybody can do it. So that's like pretty much for all. You could have did that. There's not even, I'm pretty sure that's less than 500 places. It could be 1,000. It's still doable because that short-term memory is just common sense.
And that this was an important indication that it couldn't have been my sister who put it in the mailbox. Why would she put her own ID in a mailbox?
We picked up the ID, and then we also
y'all ready for this? This is why it's looking like the husband, because unless they're playing games. Here's why, because it looks like he has money to protect. This is why it looks like the husband. If it was just a killing, there's no need to keep the story going. Once the body ain't been found or about to be found, there's no other need for a chapter 3. Unless you're connected to the story. There's no need to keep the story going. There's no need for another turn. So, yeah.
The postal workers who were responsible for this mailbox. But no one remembered seeing anyone who could have put it in the mailbox. You have more of a chance of winning the lottery than for someone to spot that someone is putting an ID in the mailbox instead of a letter.
The media also reported this at the time because, of course, now we had a clue that might lead to something concrete if the public was informed. If someone said, I was the one who put the ID in the mailbox, then the theory that it was the perpetrator would have been disproven. I mean, if this person was the perpetrator, they would have been misleading us intentionally. But if someone else came forward, that would have raised other questions. Where did you find the ID? Where did you touch it? Because of fingerprints and such. These days, we would look for DNA. Because the perpetrator must have touched it too.
The first 2 weeks, we still hoped Mom would return until her ID was found in Hamburg. For me, that was the sign that she wouldn't be coming back. Obviously, I held on to some hope. No one wants to hear Mom is dead or has been killed. I always tried to keep my hope alive. I don't think I would have survived it all otherwise.
She must be 17 or 18 in this picture. She was a trainee at the newspaper. Part of her training involved photography. She got married when she was 20. People got married younger back then. At that time, sexual procurement was still against the law. It wasn't considered proper to go into a bedroom with an unmarried woman. Those were the days.
That was long ago. I was 22 years old at the time and working as a typesetter for a small company where Birgit was doing a traineeship. That was where we first met. She was a very attractive young woman. She was a positive person. She loved life. And that led to flirting. There was a lot of chemistry. We started dating, and one day, Birgit told me she was pregnant. That was Yasmin. My father, who was very traditional,
ugly ass baby.
Now you have to marry her. And then everything went so fast. The years seemed to just fly by.
See, and right there, he didn't even marry her out of love. He stayed and his dad made him marry her. Bad sign from the beginning.
We didn't marry for love, but that's just the way it was then. For me, it was a bit too early in my life because I still had a great deal of ambition. I wanted to do something more than what I'd already achieved. And for that reason, I admit I did neglect my family's needs a little bit. I just didn't have enough time and focused more on building the firm.
Building the firm, that's a lot of money. The word firm, that's a lot of money. And if you're building the firm, if y'all talk a divorce settlement, ain't part of that firm hers? They act a little naive in this motherfucker a little bit. They got, man.
We had over 300 employees at Tah-cah-Tee.
Working there together was great. It was a lot of fun. We all got along well. Some of us even met outside of work. Mrs. Meier was always the heart of the company. Even though she was the boss's wife, she never made anyone feel that way.
Ooh, a company with 300 employees. Ooh, wee. Talking about a divorce settlement. Ooh, wee.
When I think of her, I think of her hands. Her hands were always well manicured. Nails always polished. She had a special way of walking.
They better give me another suspect or motive quick or quit wasting my time.
Just tell Mrs. Meier was coming, just by her footsteps. She had this kind of spring in her step. Something very special. I'd say we really started getting to know each other playing tennis. Of course, we talked about our families, what we did, what our plans were, things like that. But we never talked about our problems or anything we were dealing with. And, like I said, we all knew that Mr. Meier was the love of her life.
No, he said she wasn't. So don't you come back and try to clean it up. Man, people be in autopilot. They so textbook, they just say the proper thing to say. Like it's like you're reading off a script.
It's always so hard to say in retrospect. I'd say it must have been sometime after 1984. That's when it became noticeable that they sometimes had fights. You wouldn't have thought they were married. They were more like roommates.
I moved out and found my own.
More like roommates, and a divorce is more like give me half your shit, motherfucker. Tell me more.
Apartment.
It's hard to give a roommate half your shit.
My relationship with Birgit was very strained. Anyone could tell it was causing her a lot of pain.
Of course we noticed. We didn't just have a relationship with her. We also had a relationship with her daughter and her husband. It was obvious that this separation was a real blow, and that she started to turn to alcohol. Not that she was drinking all the time, but every now and then, and with increasing frequency, she'd get totally wasted.
I found alcohol in her wardrobe that I wanted to get rid of so she couldn't keep drinking, but of course, she had other hiding places too.
At some point, rumors started going around, and
if she was at the meeting, he could have went in there and drugged her alcohol and went and got her. Because they knew she wouldn't be home.
But
hence, no struggle.
Okay. We knew that Mr. Meier and Mrs. Phillips I mean, when you think about it now,
she'd already realized that I had a girlfriend. Of course, that didn't go unnoticed. We spoke about it naturally.
She wasn't the kind of person to say, so let's sit down and sort things out, let alone the three of them. No, she was deeply wounded, and so she made some rash decisions.
I'm no psychologist. I can't possibly judge what was going on in her head. Ultimately, she just wasn't a strong enough person to say, okay, I can accept things as they are and move on with my life. I can start over. She couldn't stop loving me.
Too much, I fear. She'd never have left him. Her husband was suddenly gone. The love of her life. Her life changed completely. She didn't get over it. She couldn't get over it.
So it wasn't her reason for the divorce. There's nothing going on in her life, but she's causing trouble to a multimillionaire that talked to her the day before about divorce and money settlement.
It wasn't swept under the rug.
No, but
she did have a problem with alcohol, yes, and it did surface from time to time. She lived with us for a while. We drove her somewhere, maybe to a meeting.
Yes, to Alcoholics Anonymous, I think, in her car.
Now you're giving a drunk half your shit? A drunk roommate?
It also gave us good opportunities to talk to her about it. Birgit, you can't change things.
Now, where's his girlfriend at the time? Because they knew she had a girlfriend. It doesn't seem like he's married. He might be. But if not, I would like to talk to the girlfriend.
Can't change things. It is what it is. You have to look to the future. You have to find a way for your life to go on. She was financially independent, so in that regard, she clearly didn't have any financial problems. Then she suddenly said, "Hey, I have my eye on a house, and I want to buy it. I already looked at it," and so on and so forth. It's great. She seemed to have her life back on track, and all we were hearing from other people who knew her was that she was...
So, that's money from her marriage. So she bought a house on her own, meaning she probably still had access to their money. Because they haven't mentioned a job or a career or anything.
Really euphoric, really happy that she'd found her footing in life again. Of course, we were all thankful and happy that Birgit seemed to have got her life back in order. That's what's so dramatic, and that's what makes it so awful. She was actually starting to build a new life.
And she was about to get the bag to finish the process.
When she disappeared.
Für Mama.
For Mom. My light never goes out entirely, but sometimes it only shines dimly. I will rise up again. I still haven't seen the sun. Without you, I live in the shadows. I don't know your universe. Today is yesterday is tomorrow. A new day and old sorrows. Your child misses her mother. For Mom, missing since August 14th, 1989. Please get in touch.
On the evening of August 14th, Harold Meier met with his wife, who had been living on her own for the past 2 years, to talk about their divorce. He was the last person who saw her.
If anyone out there has any information about Birgit's disappearance, or knows anything about her possible whereabouts, I'd urge them to immediately pass on any knowledge they might have, even anonymously.
Mom, I'm begging you, if you can see and hear us, to at least get in touch. But the best thing would be if you would come back, because we all miss you and we love you.
Liebe Birgit, wo bist
Birgit, where are you?
Melde dich doch bitte.
Contact us.
Wir vermissen dich so
We miss
sehr.
you so much.
Und ich denke Tag und Nacht an dich.
I think about you always.
Ich vermisse sie so
I miss her so much, and we all love you so much. Please get in
Melde
touch.
dich doch bitte bei uns. Wo bist
Where are you?
After 2 months, it should have dawned on even the dumbest cop that she might have been a crime victim. And so, I basically had to put pressure on the district attorney's office for a criminal investigation against unknown persons suspected of a criminal act to be opened. Because when criminal proceedings are underway, the police have a lot more options in terms of what they can do. Then, it fell to me at the time, the DA's office finally had the heart to initiate proceedings.
Why did you wait 2 months? Is the question. You her fucking brother and you're part of the FBI. And just by the, I would say, by the information I know, it should have been treated as a crime. And it shouldn't let dickhead be Mr. Ex-Husband of the Year. And it almost seemed like they treated it like it was a billionaire and they were scared. A millionaire, I mean.
One thing that we thought was a bit suspicious at the time was the divorce. In the divorce agreement, the wife was being awarded an unusually large sum of money from her husband. For us, that was a lead worth investigating, at least in order to uncover a motive.
About fucking time.
The question is always, who benefits from this crime? In other words, you're always looking for a motive. Because once you have the motive, or begin to get closer to finding a possible motive, you'll soon find the perpetrator.
Based on the information we uncovered, we then questioned her husband. We took turns talking to him.
Hey, there's no statute on murder over here, probably over there. Just because it happened in 89 and it wasn't, yeah, they had the lie detector test back then. But what about 98? What about 99? You can still double back like, hey, buddy. Yep, still hadn't found her. Hey, but times have changed. Take this fucking lie detector test. It's just like, come on.
It took a while. I think the interrogation lasted 6, 7, 8 hours.
One line of thought was that if they get divorced, he'd lose $1 million. And that he thought, that's so much money. I can't accept that. I'll kill my wife and I'll save the money.
Birgit opened the door. It didn't seem like anything was wrong. Surprisingly, I didn't smell any alcohol.
This is the interrogation of the husband. He already said surprisingly he didn't smell no alcohol. He's snitching.
My impression that night was that she hadn't done any drinking. It didn't take very long, 20 minutes maybe. Then I left, drove back to my apartment, and later...
What conclusion did y'all come up with, dickhead?
I went to bed.
The reason we questioned and interrogated him was always to find the truth, even if he didn't want to say anything. So, we didn't go easy on him during the interrogation.
Just admit it. Maybe you did it in the heat of the moment. It just kept going on and on. Maybe your wife had had a bit too much to drink again, and you threw your hands up because your wife...
Y'all on the wrong trail. He got too much money for that shit. So you're not going to get no reaction. Do you think somebody's going to crack when they paid to get his wife taken away professionally, and you're saying maybe you cracked and slapped her or did this or did that? You know how that's reassuring that he's going to get off with it.
Wife threw something at you, and then she was suddenly lying on the ground.
No, that's not the case because it was thought out.
I said, are you crazy? Then I got really angry. And in the heat of the moment, you got rid of the body, they said. I said, stop right now.
When you've interrogated suspects for so many years, you develop an intuition. You can tell if a person is lying or if they're being sincere, really talking from the heart.
Sometimes she forgets to turn on the alarm system at night.
The police also asked me, can you rule out that your brother-in-law had something to do with her disappearance? And I said, I can't rule anything out. It would be foolish to rule that out immediately. But that was also me speaking professionally. Because the worst thing you can do as a criminal investigator is to rule anything out.
That evening at 10, my phone rang. She said, you're right, Mom. Harold just left. Birgit brought me all the papers.
Wait, right there. They're supposed to meet at 6. He said it took about 28 minutes. And you said she called you by 10 and said he just left. Unless I'm tripping, you put the meeting over at 4 hours. He put the meeting over with at 28 minutes.
Her was, and how was your talk? And then she said, to the point and harmonious.
Everyone had their own theory about it. Everyone talked about it. The police also asked me if I could imagine that Mr. Meier was involved. And I said, I can't imagine that at all.
Yeah, because you guys are thinking like caveman. Can you imagine him saving $1 million by not getting his hands dirty? All you got to do is give somebody $30,000? Can you imagine his handwriting, reaching in the bag and pulling out $30,000 and being over with? Can you imagine that?
Mr. Meier is an uncompromising businessman. But a murderer? No.
Uncompromising businessman. About to lose half his shit. But there's no way he could say, I'd rather pay $20,000 than lose $1 million. That's what uncompromising businessmen do.
Towards the end of the interrogation, it had turned into such a heated argument that the officer got up and told me I should stop playing games with them. He told me to just admit it already. He tried to force me to confess to killing my wife.
What happened was, at one point during the conversation, Mr. Meier had tears in his eyes, and we thought we must be getting close to the truth. We thought he might be close to a confession.
From that moment on, it was clear to me that somehow I was the prime suspect.
But you didn't say that on TV. You didn't mention it on TV, or none of your that's just crazy, man.
The boat I owned, which was docked on the Baltic Sea at the time, was searched, and they did so without a warrant of any kind, because the police incorrectly assumed they might find my wife's body or...
The boat he owned. Nah, homie, you rich. Ain't no way in hell you gonna have that body on your boat, but you know people with boats too, huh? I wonder how far that water was away.
I have some clues as to her disappearance somewhere on board.
Well, if I remember correctly, I think it was a large sailboat or something that Mr. Meier had docked in Travemünde or Timmendorf, or at least somewhere on the Baltic Sea. So my colleague, Donert, and I traveled out there to investigate.
The theory was he killed my sister, had to get rid of the body, packed it into his Porsche, then drove up to the Baltic Sea with it.
What? Man, this just pissed me off. Is that how rich people do it? Thought out rich people with money? Is that how they do it? They stuff it in their own Porsche, take it to their own boat, knowing they're gonna be the #1 suspect.
After bringing it onto the ship, sailed out onto the sea and threw her body into the water.
This is a bad example, but I'm gonna say it anyways. It's just an example. That's just like freeing Puff Daddy in the Tupac murder because they didn't find any Tupac DNA in his Bentley. Well, we checked his Bentley. He don't own no Impalas or whatever. You get what I'm saying? Like there was no white Cadillacs that left Puff Daddy's premises, so he's innocent. Bad example. I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm just saying that's not a well thought out plan by a non-negotiating businessman. He's a businessman. He's not a killer. Comprende? He has the money, but he don't have the knowledge of making people disappear. You're better off auditing, checking for withdrawals in the last 3 months, 90 days, checking out if any boat left there, blah, 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 blah.
They interrogated the harbor captain and asked if he had heard any motor sounds during the night or anything. They made distance time calculations. Distance time calculations involve determining how long you need at night if the highway is relatively empty to get from Lüneburg to there and back again and arrive fresh for work the next day.
I can't say for certain whether or not it says Mr. Meier's yacht in the police records. I couldn't possibly remember that at all. In any case, it wasn't what anyone would call a yacht. It was just a motorboat. Unfortunately, the problem is that the media's sensationalism is always the same. They want to make a mountain out of a molehill because they assume he's a millionaire. See? That's what happens in millionaires' families.
To be totally honest, for a while I pretty much suspected everybody. But the fact is that Mom disappeared so suddenly, and now Dad was a suspect. Everything that could realistically have happened to Mom that could have been eliminated relatively quickly was ruled out. So then my brain got all worked up again and started imagining totally absurd things.
I always tried to keep everything I was going through emotionally from Yasmin, because I know how sensitive she is about everything, and the toll it can take on her. I didn't want to cause her pain.
At the time, the media was relatively sensitive. It was very obvious that at some point, my sister's disappearance couldn't be kept secret. The media was very careful to not immediately publicize the story, and wait until much later. As the director of Hamburg's Criminal Investigations Division, I was in the media a lot and was very exposed due to the major cases in Hamburg during the 80s, some of which really shook Hamburg.
So he's one of the head FBI guys over there on the news and all that, and he's going to wait 2 months before going down and turning his sister's missing case into a criminal investigation. It almost, man, he might have missed the calling of why he was the FBI agent. Because it seems to me that he probably could have solved it if he knew all his training was leading up to catching who killed his sister. I think that's worthy of a leave of absence until further notice, while still having all your resources.
Barely a week went by in which Zilaf wasn't interviewed about some crime. I was a real problem to some criminal gangs, of course, and some were even shut down. We had some major successes back then. Of course, as the director, some of them held me responsible for that. When my sister disappeared, a very relevant question was, might someone in the criminal underground want to have my sister disappear?
Hey, buddy. Let me tell you like this. If they're going to go through all that, they're not just going to piss you off. Guess who's going to disappear? You are.
Was this supposed to be a threat or an act of revenge or something? The organized crime unit looked into this.
And I tell you one thing, oh boy, buddy, no, he had to do it right. Her fucking brother's the head of the FBI. He's on TV all the time. You better do it right. So they even come on, geez, of course it wasn't gonna be sloppy. 'Cause you know one thing, he expected you to be all over this case, and you wasn't.
There's a saying, watch who's watching. My own team watched me to see if I was being watched by the other side. I had an official car, and when I drove home, it was always made very clear to me, Make sure you don't always take the same route, take detours often, and check your rearview mirror to see if you're being followed. That was always during times when we were dealing with gangs, where things like that do happen from time to time. Since there are also informants within the police, someone might have asked, do you know where Zilat lives? Does he have a sister or a brother or anyone? You just never know. Of course, I knew that it was a challenge for them in Lüneburg, from a psychological perspective. Oh, that's the sister of the head of the CIU in Hamburg. I found myself in situations in which you sensed that, on the one hand, a lot was being done, and in other cases, that might have not been the case. But at some point, it was quite the opposite, and whenever I asked anything, I was always seen as interfering in their investigation. They would feed me platitudes. Don't worry, we'll find your sister. And I wanted them to do more to try and reach people who might be able to help with the investigation. That's often the case, so we decided to use the show. Case XY Unsolved.
The second case in Lüneburg concerns a woman who has been missing since August 14th last year. Evidence suggests that this is a violent crime. Her name is Birgit Meier. She is 41 and lives in Brittlingen-Moorburg near Lüneburg.
All I can say is, of course, it makes a difference whether I'm watching a normal episode of XY that doesn't affect me, or one that involves a member of my family. You have mixed feelings. On the one hand...
That's funny he say that, because he's like there's FBI over there, and he's acknowledging using the media part of the investigation. Sometimes I'll be thinking, man, this is still part of the investigation, like as in... Are they tapping his phones to release this episode? Like, a lot of these episodes seem to be covert continuing the investigation. I'm cool with that, but it just seems that way because they just be like, it'd be so, not to the point, but putting pressure on a certain person.
There's the case, which is already a strain, and on the other hand you think, thank God, something's happening. Hopefully this will lead to a way to solve the case.
She was wearing a green romper and a yellow top the day she disappeared.
Wait a minute. No. Unless the translation, that shit should be at her house. She said she was in her night clothes about to lay down. That shit should be at her house. And if somebody came and killed her in the middle of the night, they wouldn't grab what she was wearing that day. That's why I don't like doing translated evidence, because I'm pretty sure they made it known that she was ready for bed. So if ready for bed, why are you showing the things she had on that day? That should be at the house. Nobody comes to kill somebody in the middle of the night and take their clothes that they was wearing the night before.
10,000 mark reward is being offered for information that leads to resolving the case. Please contact the Lüneburg Criminal Investigations Unit with any information.
We received 105 leads.
Her pajamas should be missing.
I think. My mother started to hope again. Maybe this will lead to something. Maybe someone saw something.
I can still remember the incident so vividly to this day. I had to make a trip to Frankfurt by a car to visit a customer, and on the way back home, I took a break at a rest stop. I was sitting there drinking a coffee when someone came in along with one other person. And from the side, the person looked like Birgit. I got up and left my coffee where it was. I was convinced it was Birgit.
One person had seen my sister in Hammerfest in North Cape. Another had seen her at the same time in South Africa. And on it went, round and round.
Bullshit.
One of Birgit's friends remembered a conversation she'd had with Birgit. She hadn't thought much of it at the time, but the longer the investigation went on, the more that conversation bothered her. So she got up the courage to tell my brother-in-law that in a conversation she'd had with Birgit on the evening of August 14th, my sister had mentioned a man.
I can't even remember whether I spoke to her on the phone or in person, but she told me she went to a birthday party at her neighbor's, and that their gardener was also at this birthday party.
I know that my aunt mentioned someone. What did she call him?
Her paramour.
Her paramour, right. And that he was a bit crazy or something.
Nope. A gardener don't have the means to make her disappear like that without enriching himself. Nope. Fuck that.
Well, to me, I think he was just someone who wore gardening boots and dug around in the sand or something.
My brother-in-law then told me there's this man who sporadically worked on the neighbor's property as a gardener. He shared this information with the police, so I naturally assumed that they checked him out.
I remember him clearly. He had a penetrating gaze. A deeply penetrating gaze.
How could you remember him clearly when she got that house? She got that house after leaving you, and she stayed by herself for 2 years, and you get divorced and you have a girlfriend and y'all live in separate places. How could you remember him so clearly? The neighbor's gardener.
I found him to be very suspicious, so much so that when I told the police about him, I said,
how are you telling the police about him?
Actually looking in the right place. Who is he? What does he have on his record?
Bullshit.
Hold on. When someone tells you that a woman talked to your sister a few hours before she disappeared, and that your sister told her about the gardener, and then you see what he has on his criminal record, you have to go search his house. Immediately.
Now he walking down the street where he probably, he don't got no man. And for one, fuck her brother, man. He was probably too caught up in the limelight. Fuck her brother. You can't be the head of the secret police and now sit back Monday night or Monday quarterbacking, talking about the mistakes they made, and you just assumed they was doing it. You wasn't following the murder of your sister as the head FBI and using those resources because of a local police department. Nah, homie, that shit ain't good enough. You didn't check out the gardener? Nah, homie. Okay, we made it through the first episode. Dig deeper, the disappearance of Birgit Meier. You know, I'll be concentrating on the information. Yeah, check it out. Go, if you guys want to see how it ends, go check it out on Netflix. Dig deeper. I'm going to say this, man. Of course the husband did it. Of course the husband did it. I'm out.